If I had $1 for every time I heard about an homage to Jürgen Clauss's collection habits, I would have no dollars. I suspect that may be the case for the majority of my audience also, but you're here now, likely to check out this attractive watch, and since it has the name of this man on the dial, let's do our due diligence. A lot of us mechanical watch fans love cars also, and often manual transmissions, which is getting harder and harder to find these days. If you're into cars like I am, you likely remember the Alpine A110 as an awesome rally car that was as rare as it was gorgeous. I've always loved it, and attending the F1 Grand Prix here in Melbourne most years, there was usually one or two on display that I could stand there and stare at for a while. Alpine was connected to and eventually bought by Renault in the 70s, and recently the A110 was modernized and relaunched. The new one was no less beautiful. I was lucky to see one at a car park all the way down here in my local town, but again enthusiasts only, even if James May of Top Gear fame made a rather public purchase. When the Renault F1 team rebadged the Alpine recently, that obscurity outside of car connoisseurs probably changed. Anyway, Jürgen is an especially passionate collector and specialist restorer of these gorgeous cars, so Depancel worked with him to create this watch. It's a great way to add a little soul to what is basically a tribute to the Alpine A110 as much as him. And since no one in their right mind could not love the shape and look of that car, we're all good here, my friends. Depancel is a watch brand I've followed for a while. They have released a lot of interesting watches, some I liked, others I loved. Similar to Code 41 that I've reviewed a few times, they take a collaborative approach and both listen to and actively ask for feedback from their fan base. When I emailed to ask if I could borrow this watch, it was Clement himself that emailed me back, which is typical of these micro brands. You often speak to the passionate people behind the brand when you get in touch, and it's one of my most favorite things. I also note that yet again it's another French brand that I bring to my channel. There is something in the water in France, or perhaps in the wine. Either way, some of the prettiest and most affordable watches are currently French. Anyway, the longer I babble about this, the less time you have to snap up one of the 150 watches on offer here, so let's get cracking. Size is especially interesting in today's release. The common denominator with both the old and the new A110 car, other than the signature blue color, is that they were absolutely tiny. I'm pushing 190 centimeters tall and I would likely have to remove my head to fit into it. But I'm not quite ready for the guillotine, so I'd have to shop around, I'd say. This watch is anything but small, which is a real contrast in this context. We're looking at a diameter of 43mm and a lug-to-lug of around 48mm. Lug width is 22mm and I measured the thickness at 15.7mm and the weight at 115 grams. It's got water resistance of 100 meters, and I'm also going to highlight that it's delivered with an excellent 5-year warranty. It's most definitely a substantial watch even on my above average frame and wrist. But it doesn't look like some of the oversized monsters we see out there in the world sometimes, partially due to this clever case design. So let's get a closer look at this dial. There's a bit going on here, but they've done a great job I feel, since it genuinely doesn't look too busy in person. The sunburst blue is stunning to my eyes, and it catches the light easily and readily. The printed logo is crisp and clear, and I like how they've incorporated the Depancel logo at the 12 indice. It looks good there, and at least to me, it's not distracting or too self-promoting. Just above the large date complication at 6 is where we find the Jürgen Clauss wordmark. I've heard that some people don't like another man's name on their watches, which is weird to me. But if you know Jürgen or have had your car restored by him, I feel certain you'll be quite happy to have his name there. All indices around the dial are applied, and even on this early edition prototype, they are crisp and clear and high quality. Under extreme macro, you can see some dust around the 8, but that's unlikely to be there on yours. On a large watch, you can also have a large date complication, and I dare say that Jürgen, being a mature gentleman, would be able to see this one even without glasses. I can, and this pleases me greatly. The chronograph is a classic small seconds at the 9 position, which is a quick way to see that your watch is running. Engaging this chronograph by pressing the top pusher starts the large seconds hand, and I mean large. You will not struggle to see this one with a large portion of the hand acting as the counterweight. Still, being able to actually tell the time has remained the priority with large polished fence post hands that have plenty of lume, which I'll come back to. The turquoise hand is tied in color-wise by the digit of the small complications, the Clauss in the surname, and also the tachymeter that adorns the bezel. Speaking of the fixed bezel, this keeps the protruding sapphire glass in place, which is a lovely piece of glass with excellent AR coating. The mid case itself is well designed to hide the heft of the overall watch, and we have something unusual on the left side. It's a badge that details your numbered edition, but it also has a tiny button, something that I've not seen outside of perpetual calendar watches. I got in touch with my contact and they explained this is a date complication adjuster and not a self-destruct button as I suspected. Again, I'm not ready to die just yet. So a bit unusual but easy to use in practice for when you have to adjust the date of the watch if it was left off your wrist for a while. On the opposite side, we have the 3 pushes for the chronograph. The push-pull crown is signed and appears to have drawn inspiration from an old-fashioned oil cap. Pretty cool, but I can tell you right now that manually winding this is not much fun since grip and heft is lacking, for me at least. Flipping the watch over and we get a full view through the signed sapphire crystal of the Valjoux 7753 movement. This is a so-called new old stock movement that's never been used, but also not produced out of a soulless factory. We see a signed and decorated rotor with even what looks like weight-saving stripes on the edges, which reminds me a little bit of my old Alfa Romeo rotor that I managed to change myself without anything exploding. There's plenty to look at here, and being such a large window, it is easy to get a good look. You should be able to expect a 48-hour power reserve and tolerances of around plus 4.3 to about minus 1.3 seconds per day. The strap is a real highlight for me. Not only does it have subtle French colors near the lugs, but what they've also done is replicated the pattern that you'll see in the seats of your, or more likely someone else's, Alpine car. And I'll tell you what, I'd pick this over steel any day of the week. It's thick but still pliable and feels like it's been made from car seat leather. And icing on the cake is what I think is Alcantara on the inside, so it feels nice and soft on your skin. We get another stamped logo on the inside and the steel buckle is also signed. There is not a lot of info on the landing page about this strap, but there should be. It completes the watch in my opinion and is one of, if not the best leather straps I've handled, particularly in view of the homage big picture here. This should look absolutely amazing with a few years of wear. So just to make it harder for me to find things to pick on so I don't sound like I work for Depancel, the Lume is very good and fun too. Loads of little details. But what matters is that the minute and hour hand is the strongest, and for some reason the chronoseconds. Makes sense I guess. Le Mans is a 24-hour race and it's dark at night. Now let's talk price. But before you go all, no one's gonna pay this for a micro brand blah blah blah, this is actually the second Jürgen Clauss homage edition. The first edition of 250 sold out in 24 hours. This one is limited to 150. And it's safe to say that the price of $1,895 price here may not be an issue to collectors of the car and the brand. So if this watch is not for you, don't worry, they will not struggle to sell them. I didn't know what to expect really. I liked the look of it and I asked for a loan, which I was kindly given. The product itself is my first exposure to the brand, but it will not be my last. The attention to detail, the mix of fun and craftsmanship, and the many subtle details of the watch and accessories is impressive to say the least. I hope this is a watch you want to buy, but even if not, join me in appreciating what a French microbrand can create. And if you ever get a chance to drive an Alpine A110, take it. Thanks again for watching and supporting my channel. I look forward to hearing from you in the comments.